This is Dance Studio 411, where we answer your real-life questions about your toughest studio life predicaments. Parent problems, teacher turnover, student challenges, policy dilemmas, and so much more. Let's talk about what's keeping you awake at night and what you can do about it. Here are your hosts, Suzanne Blake Garrity and Jill Tyrone.
Welcome to this episode of the Dance Studio 411 podcast, where we answer your real-life questions about running and growing your dance studio. I'm Jill Tyrone, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Brett Stuckey of Akada Software. Akada is a long-standing family-run company built specifically for dance studios, and they're also a proud Captivate sponsor of our upcoming Energize conference. In today's episode, we're digging into what the most efficient, profitable, and organized studios are doing differently, especially when it comes to admin overload. Brett brings over 2 decades of customer support experience and a deep insight into what actually works when it comes to systems, communication, and performance management. If you've ever said, I love teaching, but I can't stand the admin side, this episode is definitely for you. Let's dive in. Hey, Brett, welcome. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Hey, Jill. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm really excited for this podcast. We're going to be talking about smart studio systems. And I was just thinking, as we're in the middle of summer and things are a little crazy getting ready for back to school and starting those seasons, I think we need a little discussion about making things a little bit easier, don't we?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So why don't you give a little bit about you and your background and Akada specifically, because I know I teed you up in the intro a little bit, but we always like to hear everything in your own words.
So Akada is a family-owned business. My mother and father-in-law actually started this back in the early 90s. She was an office manager at a dance studio, the dance studio that my wife grew up dancing in. And they didn't have a software or anything in place. My father-in-law was a software engineer, so they actually just asked him to find them something, and he couldn't do it. So my mother-in-law, Susie, wrote him up like a spec list of these are the things we needed to do, and he wrote the program. And then a couple of years later, she left the studio, and they did this forever out of their house, just the two of them, burning CDs, slapping labels on them and mailing them to people. And then a few years, or during the '08 recession, my brother-in-law actually came on board, and he took that desktop-based software and put it online. And then I came in to help run support a few years later. And then he and I have been running the business by ourselves for probably 7 or 8 years now.
That's great. I remember everything being CD based and being PC based, right? So you literally had to leave the computer on so it would run backups at night. And then, we use Akada at the studio now. So it's been an evolution, and I know it's been an interesting transition. So I love that you guys are meeting the needs and you're coming at it where everybody needs to be, which is cloud based. And so Brett, what's a little bit about your background?
Not a lot to tell. Honestly, I had no connection to the dance world until I started doing this. And I have learned so much just from talking to our customers and going to these various shows every year. So, I've made a lot of good friends and met a lot of interesting people doing that. But my background was really I had a customer service background. I guess I had done it right out of high school for a couple of years at a phone company. And then I left that and went to college. And then when I got out, I ended up doing some more customer service. So when my wife and I started dating and I met Susie, my future mother-in-law at that point, she was like, I don't care what happens to the two of you. I want to hire you.
Exactly. And I love that it's family based and the history is wonderful to hear. The reason I asked you your background too, you answered that perfectly, and it leads right into our next question about how you evolve. So, we talked a little bit about being busy as studio owners, and there are so many things going on. So, how is Akada evolving and meeting the needs of the studio owner?
We're just, trying to kind of keep an eye on the future. I mentioned going to these various trade shows like Web and like Energize, and we hear, a lot of the conversations that are being had there and a lot of what's being taught to these studio owners as far as the business side of things. And, we try to keep that in mind. And so that we're trying to stay ahead and stay focused on what tools they actually need. And, we don't always get that perfect, but we do our very best. We've got a lot of new stuff we've released in the last year, and honestly, even this week, as a matter of fact. So we're just, trying to kind of see what's out there, eliminate some of the garbage that they don't necessarily need, or at least we're not sure they need yet, and focus on the important things.
Yeah, and I know the roadmap is tough. It's tough to prioritize, and it's tough to take all that information and figure out what needs to come next, because developing platforms and software, it's not an easy thing. We think from the outside looking in, oh yeah, they can do that easily, but it's a big haul. It's a big lift.
And I'm guilty of that myself too. My program, I talked to my partner and he's like, okay, yeah, this sounds easy, but it's not.
Right.
And a lot of times for us, that is the difficult part. Right now, it seems like lots of studios are wanting to integrate with this or with that, like a custom email system like MailChimp or something. But for us, how do we decide which one to integrate with? Do we just choose MailChimp and they change? We can't possibly do all of the various email platforms. So it's stuff like that what we have to try to figure out as we're going.
Exactly. And so talking about systems and overload when it comes to the studio owners, what do you think is the most significant pain point that studio owners are dealing with when it comes to running their business and then managing things like enrollment?
I think, like any other part of life, it's just disorganization and maybe not knowing where to start. Um, I myself am not the most organized person in the world, and I know it can get overwhelming, even just, day to day life, not even the business side of things. So a lot of that is, I think it's a lot of that, getting your information into a platform of some sort and being able to organize it and then communicate with your customers. I think the biggest headache that I hear from my customers is their parents, not paying attention, not reading. The things that we talk about, we hear the most are like, I send them an email. We send emails, we send texts. They don't read it, and I'm like, I totally understand that frustration. I think that is probably the biggest thing. And unfortunately, all you can do is just kind of stay the course, and eventually it'll work out.
Yeah, we just did a member training for our dance studio owner members all about communication. We just published that in July. And we talked specifically about that. Parents are not reading, or they're not getting, or they're at least saying they're not getting the emails. We can kind of tell that they are. But it's, I am actually the prime demographic and target audience. I am a busy working mom and my daughter dances. And so I always put it through the lens of my life. If I'm inundated with emails, what can we do to catch my eye? Where do I need to get the information from? Is it multiple areas? So Brett, let's lead right into a little bit on how Akada can help with that. How can your platform really make a studio owner's life and the admin's life a little bit easier?
That's their number one goal. Like our tagline has always been like, nobody started a dance studio because they loved working in their office. You want to be in the classroom with your kids. So our goal is to do what we can do to reduce that admin time. And the ways that we're able to do that, we help organize your monthly billing, your tuition, your email. You can email out of the platform. You can text out of the platform. In the next month or two, we are going to be adding messaging to our new studio app, to our new parent app, so that you will be able to message directly to that. We also offer other tools like costume ordering organization, your recital schedule organization. So it's things like that are the real time eaters that we're trying to do to help reduce that time in sitting in your office.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I love how you are growing and integrating things like, helping to plan with performances and helping to ease the burden of that costume ordering. So that's why we like it. That's why we like Akada. And that's why you're coming to Energize as one of our big and Captivate sponsors of the event. So we're really excited to see you there.
We will be there. We're very excited as well. It's a great show. It's honestly one of my favorites.
Great. And then you'll be able to, continue and have these conversations. And I've noticed even just within the last year, it feels like there's a shift and there's a change in how people are getting the content, how they're managing their parents and their families. We're just getting busier and busier, and time is, really on not on our sides when it comes to making sure that we're capturing enrollments, capturing all the information. Billing is a big thing too. And I want to maybe tie into a little bit about, do you have a favorite story of working with one of your customers and your clients, and how Akeda has helped them?
We have some. I tell people the blessing and the curse of this business is that your customers are so loyal. We've had customers that have been here long before I was, and I've been here 14 years now. We've got customers that have been with us since the beginning. The downside of that, though, is it makes it hard to grow because customers of our competitors don't want to leave them either. I I think the things I enjoy helping people with or some of the stuff I've seen over the years, it's not always great. I've helped customers overcome, employees
Mhm.
stealing, help just deleting charges off accounts, stuff like that, and kind of digging in and researching that stuff. I get a little bit nerdy about and enjoy, but I also don't like to see it happen. So I like being able to explain to them, hey, look, if we do this, this is going to help you protect your information. I tell people my biggest pet peeve is seeing studios that have one username and it's admin, and all of the employees have access to it and they all have access to everything, and we give you the tools to let you customize. Every user should have their own login, and it can be and should be customized to their job title. A teacher does not need to be able to pull your financial reports. That's for you and your office manager, stuff like that. And my other big pet peeve is my long-term customers say, hey, we really only use about half the software. I'm like, again, give me an hour to train you and I will save you 10 hours a week. So that's the stuff I enjoy.
Yeah, and so what I hear you saying is that you guys provide excellent support for your customers and you have great safeguards in place. I absolutely love the fact that you're thinking about their login information and keeping things very separate because, as you know, with any business, there are people that require certain things and then they don't need to be involved in others. So I love that you're really looking out for the business and the business owner. There are some stories out there where people have, been embezzled and they've lost money and they've not had control or they've not
Right.
taken the time to really be involved. And so I always like to go and start from the top up that, the studio owners should know everything to do about the software and how to maneuver and how to manage it, but then they can hand it off. So I think it's important to, like you said, take that hour, train them to know what's happening, and then they can manage and oversee that with their office manager or their front desk person. You mentioned it and teased up a couple of things that are coming the way. So can you give us a little tea and a little scoop on this new app that's coming out?
So we actually just released it this week. It's the studio. We're just calling it the Studio app. For right now, it is simply an attendance app. It lets your teachers go into the classroom with the app on their phone and just take attendance right there. It shows them it shows them what classes they've done attendance in. It shows them classes that have missing attendance. You can set up little alerts. So if Susie hasn't been to class in 2 weeks, it will pop up and tell you. And we will slowly be adding to that over the next, probably 2 years, if not longer. So next for that particular app is the messaging piece. So you will be able to, from it, do messages directly into the parent app. And then we have some other things we're working on, more of a calendar-based scheduling system. We've got some new billing options that we're working on. Basically, you would be able to just schedule your billing so that on the first of the month it does it for you rather than you having to go in there and prompt it each month. And then we've been just modernizing our entire user interface over the last 6 months, and we hope to have that done sometime this fall.
Awesome. So I've used it both on the front end and the back end, and I think it's great. So I'm happy to hear that new things are coming, and it's always important to hear from a company who cares, and that's why you're out at the shows. You're out there listening, and you're really working to provide things that are timely in the market and what the studio owners need. Before I head into some fun rapid fire questions that I always like to do you have anything else you want to add? Anything that you've done and changed or updated within the last year, or anything that you have for our listeners today?
One thing we changed back at the beginning of the year that I haven't mentioned is we actually changed our pricing. We used to do a tier pricing based on the size of the studio. Honestly, us and all of our competitors did that back in the day. And we changed that to just one simple flat fee, $60 a month. That includes all of the features of of our software, includes both the apps. It also there's no extra fees. We don't charge for texting and things like that. My brother-in-law and I have always agreed that we hate the nickel and diming. You check into a hotel and they want to charge you for Wi-Fi or something. It's just annoying. So we just came up with one set fee that we think works for everybody. There's no elite level or anything like that. It's the same for everybody.
Awesome. And then as we go into these rapid fire questions, I will put any links that you need in the show notes. So we'll link out to Akada software. We will link out to any type of information that you need. So check the show notes
Awesome.
for that.
Thank you.
Okay. And then, Brett, if somebody onboards with you, we didn't really talk about this, you mentioned it, but when they onboard with you, do they get a call? Do they get help getting set up? What's the best way to get started with Akada?
Yeah, when you sign up with us, you're going to get a series of emails, most of which are pushing to schedule a training session with us. Myself and my support staff, that's what we really would like you to do. Our happiest customers always start that way. It's just easier. I'm guilty of this. Everybody, I think, is guilty of this, learning how to do just enough of a software so that you can get through it. But we're trying to get people away from that. We want you to use it all. And we will walk you through every step of it. The owner, their staff, all of the above. We're happy to do it.
All right. Sounds good. So let's go into some rapid fire questions and then we'll wrap up for today.
I'm a little scared.
I know I can see your face, and you guys that are listening in can't see it, but Brett and I are on a video call, and you can see the he's starting to sweat a little bit. No, these are easy ones. But we just like to have a little fun in the podcast. Okay, we kind of answered this already, but let's start with the biggest administrative headache that studio owners have today.
We talked about the billing and things, but I think right now one thing we're starting to see a lot is there are so many different types of platforms that they feel they need all of, and being able to connect those, and that's one thing that we're working to solve internally, and also with some of our friends at other types of platforms.
Great. So taking all of that and really just kind of, you don't need everything. We call it shiny object syndrome, right? So we don't need to keep running out, but if they come to you, you're going to help them out.
Yeah, a good example, or I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
A good example is, and we have a Zapier integration, but I remember going to shows about 3 years ago, and that was literally all I heard. Everybody was coming up to me, do you have Zapier? Do you have Zapier? I went the next year, and I didn't hear it one time.
It's interesting. Things change, but you met their needs. So here we go. How about if you have one word to describe Akada's mission?
I'll give you 2 words: time savings. That's it.
Perfect. Fast. I love that. Fire. What is your favorite feature inside Akada software?
My favorite, and maybe because it's one of the least used, is the costume ordering piece of it, it can really help organize that order. I go to y'all's show, I go to Energize, and I see the catalogs, and I see all the little stickies in them. But we can help organize that catalog so that you're assigning it to your students. You know what size they need, and you have an organized order form so that when you pull up Revolution's website, you can say, okay, I need 3 extra smalls of this, two mediums, and at the end of the day, you're getting it right.
I love that. We love anything that makes that costume ordering process simpler and easier. Awesome. Yeah. And with our collection coming out, we have over 200 new styles this year. So it's getting bigger and bigger as we go along.
Nice.
I know, isn't it great? So what's one thing that studios often overlook when choosing management software?
Probably the support part.
I love that. Yeah. You know what? There's so many times when we either call in or we're directed to a website, or some things are done now through chat and AI. Knowing that you guys have one-on-one support and you can actually reach a live person to help you out is really great. So I love that.
Yep.
This is one of my favorite questions. If Akada were a dance style, what would it be and why?
How about jazz? Because we kind of have to, with so many long-term customers, we kind of have to balance the tradition of the way we've always done things versus like where we want to advance to in the future. And sometimes we have to make it up as we go.
Yeah. And everybody loves a good jazz hand every once in a while. So perfect. This is a good one. What's the biggest myth about dance studio software? Like what do people usually assume or think?
Oh, probably that there's no one will actually help you learn it.
Okay, good. So I like that. And then we already talked about this, but basically the feature that you're most excited to improve on or launch next.
Probably the studio app that we just talked about. I'm really, I know it's starting as an attendance app, but I'm really excited to see where it goes over the next year.
Good. And what's something that studio owners think that they need, but they really don't?
Probably like a really big, expensive CRM. I've worked with a couple of those, and they get super expensive, and they get super complicated. And I think there's just a lot of other good tools that aren't nearly as expensive or complicated that can help studios out.
I love that. We always like to save a little bit of money. Okay, and last question, Brett, before we wrap up. In one sentence, why should a studio try Akada?
I think it's straightforward. The feedback I get from people who see it for the first time is, "Oh, this looks easy," and that's the way we're trying to keep it. So I think that, and obviously, as I've mentioned several times, we'll help train you and your staff to get you up and running.
Yeah, and it's important. I like the ease of use, because not only from the studio perspective, meaning the people that are setting it up, administering it, and working on it on the back end, but also the portal and the way that it interfaces with your families. It's got to be easy on both sides.
That's a great point. I mean, it needs. I mean, there's no one. Studios don't want to train their parents, so the parent side of it definitely needs to be simple. That was one of the things when we were creating our new parent app, was to make it straightforward, make the registration process as quick and easy as possible.
Great. So, Brett, we're getting ready to wrap up. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add before we call it a day for this awesome podcast?
I'm sure my email will be in the show notes, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me directly, and I'll just look forward to seeing everyone at Energize.
Yeah, we are looking forward to it too. So again, if you guys need help with your studio management software, Brett is the guy to go to with Akada, and this is awesome, and we will see you at Energize.
I can't wait.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dance Studio 411. Visit us online at dancestudio411.com for more great resources and to submit a question for a future episode. Our number one goal is to help you build a successful dance studio business and keep your passion for dance alive.